we have major Dodgers trade deadline news as the Dodgers are all in on a pitcher from the Motor City, and I'm talking about Tarik Skubal. This is Mike Nelson of Dodgers Digest. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. 98% of you right now are not subscribed to the channel. We want to thank those who are, the 2%. But if you're a Dodger fan, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of great Dodger content coming your way. Let's get right into the story. The Dodgers are in on Tarik Skubal. We're getting more and more reports that this looks like it's going to happen. We now have actually a trade proposal that came out earlier today. This report coming from Mark Feinstein of MLB.com, reporting that the Dodgers and Baltimore Orioles are one of the teams that looks like are going to, they're working out a trade potentially for Skubal. Both teams, the Dodgers and Orioles, as we know, are contenders this season. The Orioles haven't won the World Series in, 40 years? So they're definitely all in on grabbing a star. And then our Dodgers, as we know, are all in on trying to put together a World Series winning team. As we know, this looks like it could be the Dodgers' year. So those two teams right now, the Dodgers and Orioles, are fighting, it looks like, to get Tarik Skubal. But now we have reports of an actual, trade proposal. So it's looking like now we're getting closer. We're getting closer to maybe a trade happening. The Dodgers trade deadline is going to be, July 30th. They're definitely less than a week away from a decision on making a trade for a star pitcher. The Detroit Tigers, who are trying to trade Skubal away, are also, at a deadline. That's why it's called the trade deadline. Trying to figure out if they're going to want it to deal, one of their star pitchers. That's kind of what is the situation right now. Are they going to deal a player like this, right? Because Skubal is arguably the Tigers' best pitcher. He's their highest, asset, their most valuable asset that they have. So they're going to have to be careful where they send him, and also going to have to figure out, if they're going to get, the return that they're looking for. So let's take a look at that proposed trade that is currently out there. This proposed trade technically came from Bleacher Report. The Dodgers would be receiving Tarik Skubal. The Tigers would be receiving right-handed pitcher Bobby Miller, a pitcher that, of course, Dodger fans know. He's been, pitching most of this season. Has had some stints in AAA, but everybody in Dodgers Nation knows who Bobby Miller is. The outfielder that they would be trading away would be Josue de Paula, a player that is in the minor league system right now for the Dodgers, a 19-year-old player who bats left-handed. And then the other player that they would be giving away would be a catcher and first baseman, Dalton Rushing, another player who's in the Dodgers farm system. We've talked about before on this show, the Dodgers have one of the best farm systems in the entire, league, in entire baseball. And it's been like that for years, right? Going back to the 1970s when we had, legends such as, Steve Garvey and, Steve Sachs and just so many great players. Mike Piazza came up through the Dodgers system. Just so many great players that came through in the decades, ago. And, more modern, we had Matt Kemp, Andre Ethier, Russell Martin. We've had so many great players come up through the Dodgers system, right? So you can't be too surprised that teams are interested in these assets that the Dodgers have in their system, right? You don't know how it's going to pan out for these players, but you have a star player that looks like Skubal doesn't want to sign long term in Detroit. So I think that's kind of the driving factor right now why they're trying to trade him. I don't see any other reason why. Skubal is a player that is an exciting player, a great pitcher. There's no reason why you'd want to trade him unless there's some inside info that he's not going to be staying in Detroit long term, and they of course want to grab some players before he walks out. You don't want to end up like the Angels, right? Giving away a Shohei Ohtani for nothing, right? Because that's what ended up happening to our rivals down south, losing arguably, their best player of all time to, of course, the Dodgers. So going back to the proposed trade, the Dodgers right now, like I mentioned, that's the proposed trade that we have from Bleacher Report. I wanted to kind of go over some topic points here. So, for Bobby Miller, he was optioned down to AAA in early July. He's kind of had a tough stretch, giving up 26 earned runs, up with the big club, 33 hits, 17 walks. It hasn't been too good. Only 23 innings, struck out 16, so it just hasn't really been a good 2024 for Bobby Miller, right? But last year, there's some good numbers on his resume. 22 starts, a 3.76 ERA. I mean, that's pretty good for a major league pitcher. Yeah, 3.76 ERA is good in 2024. Or, well, this happened in 23. But anyway, you get the point. In this day and age, a 3.76 ERA is not bad. It's decent. So Bobby Miller has the potential to be a decent pitcher in the major leagues. That's why he can be used as potentially the biggest piece in this trade for Skubal, right? And the Tigers are interested in potentially doing this trade, right? With this proposed trade you see there is some interest with Bobby Miller, despite the idea that he has struggled in 2024. It goes back to, I think, last season having a good solid year in 22 starts. That's what kind of gives the Tigers maybe some interest. So should the Dodgers do it? That's kind of, I think, the question that everybody is having right now. Should the Dodgers do it? I wanted to talk a little bit about the prospects that I think some Dodger fans would be a little antsy and giving up. Dalton Rushing is a left-handed batter. He's an exciting player in the minor leagues. He plays a catcher. He plays first base. So guess what? The Dodgers have maybe the best catcher in the National League hitting-wise in Will Smith. And then they might have the best first baseman as well in Freddie Freeman. So there's no clear path for Dalton Rushing to really get any considerable playing time with the Dodgers, right? There's no path to it. I mean, Will Smith just signed a 10-year contract, and Freddie Freeman hopefully spends the rest of his career here with us. So there's no pathway for Rushing to go to the Dodgers and play on an everyday basis, or even to get on the roster. So him getting traded, I'm sure he wants to get traded. He wants to play in the major leagues. And the Dodgers want to trade him too, because they just don't see a pathway. Rushing could end up being a future Hall of Famer. I don't want to bash the guy. I've never seen him play. But there just isn't room right now for Dalton Rushing on this team. And that, unfortunately, when you have great teams like the Dodgers are right now, you sometimes have to sacrifice the young talent, right? There's just too many stars on this team to really find a place for a player like Dalton Rushing. Now, DePaula is the Dodgers' number 2 prospect. He's still in single A. High A, you would say. You got to remember they divided the single A now. So, there's still a long way to go for DePaula. There's still a long, mountain to climb. There's still a lot of development left. So the risk of trading him, in my opinion, is you have to take it. Trading DePaula and Bobby Miller and also Rushing, for me, is a risk that is also, it's valid. You should do it. Now, there's also another report from Dodgers Nation that the Dodgers are going to trade all 3 of these guys, Pajes, Vargas, and Outman at the deadline. There's reports that that's happening. So if that's happening, this is from John Morosi. He gave an interview to Dodgers Nation talking about, he's saying that these 3 guys could be part of a package that could bring back some pitching. And of course, talking, about pitching, I assume he could be mentioning Garrett Crochet and Skubal, right? That's kind of their biggest need. That's what John Morosi spoke about in this interview, that their biggest need is definitely starting pitching. So, if they're going to package players like this, now, I mean, I really think there's no reason not to do this trade, right? If you're thinking of giving away players that are already on your roster, and there's already this proposed trade out there for one of your minor league, prospects, go ahead and do the trade, get Skubal on the Dodgers, and let's win the 2024 World Series.